January 25th regular but remote meeting of the Burlington Board of Health to order. I'm Ed Weiner, Chairman, and with me remotely are board members, David McSweeney, our Vice Chair, Mary Beth Welch, Andrea Sheehan, and Dr. Wayne Salzman. Also with us this evening is our Director of Public Health, Susan Luminello, Michael Green, our Associate Director of Public Health, Christine Mathis, our Environmental Engineer, and I am looking for Dawn McDowell. Is she here?
No, Dawn's not here. She'll be taking the minutes. Yeah.
So who is taking minutes, please?
Dawn will be doing it from the recording.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Again, please note we're live on BCAT and available for appropriate comments and questions through this video technology. And thank you all for being here on this cold evening. Citizens time. Is there anybody on this call who is not have an issue on our agenda that would like to speak to this board? Ms. Kordemarsh, do you have anybody?
None that I can currently see.
Okay, we have approval of minutes 12/14/2021.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes from 12/14/2021.
I'd second.
I have a motion from Dr. Salzman, second by Mary Beth Welch. All in favor? I have to do roll call since we are remote. Mr. McSweeney?
Aye.
Dr. Salzman?
Aye.
Ms. Welch?
Aye.
Ms. Sheehan?
Aye.
And I vote aye, 5-0. Next, Chairman's report. I'm going to do something a little different tonight. I've told some of you what I was thinking about, and that is not necessarily a report, but an opinion and editorial. As chairman of the Board of Health, I spend a lot of time each meeting thanking many people in the town that do so much to protect our community, including this board. It's elected members, it's health professionals, it's support staff. They have all spent many hours above and beyond. They've worked not only days, but evenings and weekends to do what we must do to maintain the health of this community. This pandemic is, however, now in its third year. It's changed the way we do things, the way we live it. It has changed our lives. Unfortunately, this pandemic has also become a political disaster. Every aspect of COVID-19, from quarantining to vaccinations to masking, and how we educate our children, how we shop, do our jobs, socialize, has been mixed with controversy and emotion. Yes, everybody in this community, this state, this country, have become frustrated with COVID-19. This new world has caused so much stress, so much emotion, and in some cases, even depression. And now this. I'm concerned about the pandemic. I'm concerned about the virus, but most of all, I have become concerned with how people have begun treating each other. Seems like every discussion has become filled with emotion. So many discussions have led to argument. I see so many of these arguments become highly confrontational. We've all seen it. Many inappropriate, and in some communities, this inappropriateness has led to violence. We all know that this pandemic will ultimately end. In just a few years, it will only be a memory. So I suggest, before you ruin a relationship, before you regret saying harmful things, writing inappropriate statements that we have all received, remember, when this virus is but a memory, the treating of someone badly will never be forgotten. I know it's hard. I know it's tough. I know this pandemic is very frustrating, emotional, stressful, and in some cases a little scary. in some cases very divisive. I urge you to take a deep breath. No matter how you feel, treat everyone with respect, whether you agree with them or not. And always remember, we are all in this together. Thank you so much. I needed to say that tonight because I have seen how divisive, how inappropriate, how emotional people have becoming. People who I've never expected to act the way they do, say the things that they say. I hope they have heard this message. I'll now open it up to anyone else who'd like to make a comment about anything. I do that in the chairperson's report. Anybody like to comment?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a couple of comments after that, and more so from the perspective of that, you know, you and I can speak because I know this for a fact. You have taken a verbal beating through email on numerous occasions on both sides of the argument. But you know, I just want to back that up in saying that I appreciate the work you do around this. I appreciate you continuing to keep it on the agenda as it, you know, kind of keeps the wound open. However, I do think it's our responsibility to continue to discuss and debate and do what's best for the community, even though that you have taken some slighting. So I just want to say thank you for all the work you've done and the work the rest of the board and the staff has done as we go through these difficult times. It doesn't come without criticism, and we do get some compliments here and there too, so I don't want to think it's slighted in one way. But you continue to put it on the agenda. We continue to talk about it, and I just want to recognize you for the efforts around that, even though it's not always easy. So thank you.
Thank you, David. Anybody else before we move on?
Ed, thank you for sharing that message. You always start the meetings off as with that setting the tone. So I appreciate that. I also want to give a friendly reminder. I think we may need to do the Pledge of Allegiance. So I'm being kind that we just might want to do that so it's on the record. Thanks.
I was so excited about giving this
I bet.
that I forgot
It was a nice
the Pledge of Allegiance.
It was a kind, nice message, and I think it was needed to set the tone. Thank you.
You know, Mary Beth, keep me honest. Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I'll lead it. Let's do it as a group. Thank you. All right. I pledge allegiance
to
to the flag
of the
United States of America
and to the
to the
republic
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible,
with liberty
and
and justice for all.
Thank you, Mary Beth. I appreciate
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
We're going to applications, site plan approval, 15 Adams Street, Filter Sales and Services Incorporated, and Christine Mathis, our environmental engineer, will lead us in this discussion. Christine, please.
Good evening. 15 Adams Street, it's currently the location of an existing building that houses Filter Sales and Services. They use the building for offices and warehousing. It's abutted with commercial properties to the north, east, south, and a vacant lot to the west of the site. The proponent is looking to put a approximately 12,000 square foot addition onto the property and do some slight improvements to on-site stormwater collection, which would include the installation of some deep-hooded sumps and an infiltration basin that will ultimately discharge to the adjacent wetland. The site is a former MCP site by the name of Jurgensen Gauge and Valve. It's been investigation and remediation since 1986. Contaminated soils were removed to bedrock in 1995, and so additional site remediation continued into the 2000s, and since approximately mid 2000s, they have been doing monitor natural attenuation for the contaminants of concern, which right now have been reduced down to cis 1,2-dichloroethylene as a breakdown product of GCE. They are currently still monitoring a handful of wells for under that monitoring under the M&A program, and will continue as a result of the fact that the the addition and one of the active wells will be and are located near some of the construction. We asked for LSP opinions ahead of time, just to make sure that any construction of the addition or the addition of the infiltration basin did not have any impact on the ongoing remediation monitoring at the site. So we did have LSP opinions. They're in the conditions, but they have been pre-submitted, and we have them from both the LSP of record for the site. So that would be the LSP for the principal responsible party, which is the current company that was Jurgensen, Gage, and Valve. And we also have LSP opinions from the proponents LSP. So I'll go ahead and let Mr. Sennett introduce his team, and they can add more to the information that I've just summarized.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bob France. I'm with Sennett Construction Corp. We are representing Filter Sales and Service in 15 Adams Street. And I'll introduce our team. First of all, the co-owners of Filter Sales and Service and the building, 15 Adams Street, Alan and Tom Roulette. In addition to that, we have our LSP who's representing us and has done his investigation and rendered his opinion letter. It is SAK Environmental. Steve Sakakini is the principal, and Megan Emmert is the engineer of record. In addition to that, Dan Hazen from HSH Associates is the civil engineer for the project and has been doing the site design and development. Members of my team that are on the in the virtual meeting are Scott Devine, Vice President of Operations, and Duncan Clark, our project manager for the project. I'm prepared to just give you a quick overview of the plans and where we intend to add on to 15 Adams Street. So I'm going to share my screen. Is this large enough? Are you able to see this? Okay. The addition is approximately 277 square feet. It is adding on to the north side of the existing building, which is about 40,000 square feet, and is on the side away from Adams Street. So this back area abuts commercial properties on 3 sides, and then the vacant lot on the west side. The addition will involve some additional paved parking area, and we are accommodating the stormwater management and drainage of the property via these detention ponds that are located just west of the proposed addition. I'm going to share the architectural renderings. These are elevations, renderings of the proposed addition. and the floor plan of the proposed addition. Sorry if I go too far. So the addition is going to be approximately, I'm going to give some rough dimensions, approximately 100 feet wide by 127 feet deep. Okay. Um, these are the elevations on this side, the west side. This side is the east side. Excuse me, this side is the north side. This is the east side here of the addition. In addition to that, so that's the building that we're proposing. And I will turn this over to our environmental engineer, SAK Engineering. Steve, are you or Megan going to be taking the lead on that?
Yeah, I can jump in. Bob, if you can zoom out a little so we see the entire property.
Yep.
Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to do a little talking, and I don't know, Bob, if you can move your cursor as I
Yep.
do some describing, but Christine, that was a great summary on the site. I just want to build on that in addition to the removal actions on the property that occurred. And let me back up. I mean, the industrial activity was going on from like 1957 to 2003. And then, like Christine said, the response actions were going on since 1986. The big picture is for this particular site in terms of risk to pollutants is that it's a site that had undergone a lot of response actions, and now it's approaching its final phase of monitored natural attenuation. And the area where we're doing our improvements, which is sort of the north side of the property, is fortunately an area where Golder Associates, that's the LSP of record for at least the past 20 years, has been achieving their M&A goals. And they've actually started dropping wells off of their monitoring protocol, selected wells. Conversely, on the southeastern corner of the property, which we were not doing any work, is where they're continuing to do their monitoring. So when we did our work, we looked at what could be left for contaminated soil. In the area we're working, the answer was none because everything was removed down to bedrock and confirmed with sampling by prior contractors. The building that's being proposed is at a location where there's an existing groundwater monitoring well, B9. And the LSP of record informed us that that well is scheduled to be decommissioned from their M&A monitoring program anyway. So we were fortunate, and we're coordinating with them on decommissioning requirements, which is reflected in the well management plan. Where the only concern we had in our work after looking at the data was where the stormwater detention basin is proposed. There was a well that the last time that was sampled was 20 years ago. It showed some levels of concern. In other words, they were above regulatory standards, and that well was no longer there. So we took the effort and put in a replacement well at the same location of same construction, all subject to the LSP of records approval on the well design and location, and determined that there are in fact no VOCs there. That was the concern. So once we updated water quality and that information, we were comfortable that the building construction and the stormwater retention basin was not going to exacerbate or in some way extend or make worse or interfere with the current response actions. All those opinions were laid out in a letter that we had submitted to Christine's office. And before doing so, our work products was shared with the LSP of record, who reviewed that information and submitted either a letter or an email approving our opinions on that, or I should say concurring with the opinion. And that's where we're at now.
Thanks, Steve.
Does anybody else on your team need to speak to us before we ask a number of questions?
I don't believe so. I think that, we've given you the information that, we were providing, but we're glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Before we go on, just a comment. Ms. Kordemarsh, Ms. Sarah Kordemarsh, I just got a text from somebody who was trying to get on to this meeting and said that they can't get on. I don't know where I am right now, and I can't give them access. If you can think of something, putting it on our website or whatever. Yeah, it says that the link on the Board of Health website is incorrect. So I'm not sure how to correct that. Okay, let's move on.
I'm sorry, this is Susan. They can go to the Burlington calendar on the main page to get the link for this meeting.
Okay. Can you, it's from a Melissa Foster, who it just came up on my screen. I hope they hear that. Does anyone have any questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I just have one question. It was the part that they talked about from the LSP, that there was a date of to decom. Is that date to decom, is that for this year?
To decommission or to?
The decommission, yes.
Yeah, so on the well where the building is going?
Yes, I'm sorry, I should have been more clear on the well where the building is going. Thank you.
Well, so two things that will have to happen. There's going to be two wells that are decommissioned. One where the building is going, and the other, which is the new well we put in at the detention basin to get that extra data, that will be decommissioned before or as part of basin installation. So that would be
The replacement well that you
Yes.
spoke of? Okay, and
Yes.
and that is happening this year for both?
Megan, I'm going to defer to Megan. Do you know if they had planned on what their schedule was on the when they dropped it from there? I know in terms of construction that the well has to be decommissioned before the building. So I guess in terms of timing, Bob, I'll let you jump in on the construction schedule.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So we're scheduled to go before the planning board, I believe on the 3rd of February. And then once we receive planning board approval and they sign off, there's a 21-day appeal period, in which we'll start design process. Our anticipated start schedule is sometime around the beginning of April of this year.
And no other testing has to be done with these wells before?
Megan, can you answer that possibly?
I don't believe so before the decommissioning. I think the last sampling was done in 2021 in August, and it's a biannual sampling. So the next one, I guess, will be in 2020, would have been in 2023.
Okay, great.
So.
It's an annual process. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes, you are breaking up, Mr. McSweeney. You might
Oh,
want.
I apologize. Can you hear me okay now?
Yes, that's much better.
All right, sorry about that, and thank you. And thanks for the presentation, gentlemen. Can you talk about the detention basin? I think you were calling it a retention pond. So one, is there an existing stormwater management system on the site? And then 2, can you just talk about the operation of the proposed detention basin or pond? I believe was the correct terminology that was used.
I'm going to turn that question over to Dan Hazen from HSH and ask him to respond to that.
Excuse me. The drainage system, there is currently no stormwater attenuation on the site. There are a few catch basins, but they are just a direct discharge overland off-site. So there's no stormwater treatment on the site. No for total suspended solids, any pollutant removals, or any phosphorus removal. What we're proposing to do is collect the stormwater in the north section of the site in deep sump-footed catch basins, which will flow to a sediment forebay, which then has a filter berm in it, basically a crushed stone berm that will allow the water to slowly work its way into an infiltration section of the basin. The basin's designed as an infiltration basin, and there's no stormwater leaving the basin in the 2-year storm. There's a small amount in the 10-year storm and up to the 100-year storm. Nothing more than in the 100-year storm, I believe we have, I looked it up, it was 1.9 cubic feet per second at the peak. In the 10-year storm, we have less than half of a cubic foot per second leaving the basin. So between the deep sump-footed catch basins, the forebay, and the infiltration, we're removing total suspended solids, plus the infiltration allows for phosphorus removal.
So how during the 100-year storm, how deep and how long does water retain in the basin?
The basin drains within 72 hours, and let me just look on the stormwater report as far as how deep it gets. Bear with me for 1 second. Peak elevation of 194.89. So the berm elevation is 196. The spillway is at 195, so it's just below the emergency spillway elevation.
So it's like 2 feet for 72 hours, is that correct?
It drains down, let me look back into the hydrograph. It looks like it drains completely within about 36 hours during the 100-year storm.
Okay, so I said 72 hours. So it's 36 hours. So it's as deep as 2 feet, and it'll take 36 hours to infiltrate. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, that's for the 100-year. For the 2-year, it's only, just looking back, peak elevation is 192.96, so there's less than a foot of water in the basin during the 2-year storm.
So is there any reason why we're not burying the system? Is it has to do with the contamination, or is there another reason why we're not having an underground stormwater management system infiltration?
It's not required in a resident. This is not a.
I understand. I'm just asking the question.
Okay. Yes.
Why is it not a subsurface basin?
Yes, correct.
From a maintenance point of view, open basins are a lot easier to maintain. You can observe how they're functioning. You can clean out sediments a lot easier, and that's basically, if I have a choice, I would much rather have the basins open than under a parking lot. And
Sure.
that's the only reason.
Okay. And is there a way, I'm just thinking through, I mean, when I think 36 hours, 2 feet of water, is there a way to speed up the infiltration and or lower the standing water?
Well, I mean, this is the 100-year storm event. It was designed using the,
I think you would agree a 100-year storm happens quite frequently nowadays.
well, it's, the HydroCAD report is designed on, I believe it's 9 inches of rainfall over a 24-hour period. So, I mean, that's fairly, 8.7 inches over a 24-hour period.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the only other way to get it to infiltrate faster would be to expand the footprint of the basin to
Right.
create more surface area. The only reason, I mean, trying to limit the amount of disturbance and the vegetation, there is a large rock pile that we were trying to avoid having to move and disturb. So, I mean, that was the only reason to try to keep it fairly compact so that, because this area that we're looking at right now is all vegetated and densely wooded right now.
Okay. And how much are you increasing the impervious surface on the site?
Off the top.
The addition is, I forget the size of the addition is what, 12? Did you say
The basement is 12,000.
12,000?
And
In the parking?
just looking at the drainage report right now. If you give me a moment, I could get back to you on that. I just have to. I just don't have that number off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, if you can look it up, I can turn the chair back. I mean, the questions back over to the chair. I'm done after that question. If you want to continue to look, that'd be great.
Yes, I can get right back to you on that. It's just.
Thank you.
Well, Dr. Saltzman, or do you have any comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Ms. Sheehan, do you have any comments?
I'm just curious, because there is going to be water standing there. What's the safety precaution, even though it's not a highly populated area? In the event somebody did go there and there was this rainwater standing there, is there like a high fence or anything to, protect people that might wander onto the property?
There is no fence around the basin. Like I said, it's the overall basin itself is about 5 feet deep at the most. So there was no fence. When we looked, there was nothing in the requirements. So we didn't, like I said, or like you mentioned, it's not in a residential neighborhood, that there shouldn't be anyone out in the back here normally. So.
Okay, thank you.
Well, this is Ed, I'm the chairman. I have a bunch of questions. Let's start with, since we've been talking about the detention basin. Is this a place that we want infiltration based on the history of the site? And I'm the only one here, probably on this whole call, who has been working with this since 1986. Do we really want infiltration here? I'll ask my environmental engineer. Is this a good thing to have infiltration at all here?
And given the fact that the contaminant is basically gone from the site, the last rounds of sampling have had, if they've had any detectable levels of residual contamination, they're below the GW1 standard. And the contamination itself that does remain is not in this area. It's actually on the other side of the site. So I'm not opposed to infiltration in this part of the site now.
And do the two LSPs agree?
That was our opinion, and the LSP record concurred.
Now, since we were there, I just want to, I think that Ms. Sheehan had brought up a good point. Usually when you have a 5-foot drop by the side of the building, usually we do ask for some type of passive barrier, whether it be bushes or something else, because there are people going to be in that area. And since I do see a doorway there, I think it's a doorway looking at the plans, that are, there should be something there. We've had cars drive into these in industrial and commercial areas. We've had people have issues in these. I'm not looking for a fence, but I think we should have some type of a passive barrier, whether they be bushes, whether it be something, so people along the side of the building don't, at night or at a time when the area is not appropriately lit, that there should be some type of passive barrier, whether it be hedges of whatever. And I'd like to add that to the condition, just for safety reasons along the right side, which would be the eastern side of the barriers, because someone could clearly come in there at night and fall in. And just something that to give them some delineation that there are these there. I'm not opposed to these. I just think that there should be some delineation there. I don't know how my colleagues feel about that.
But Ed, to be quite honest, I'm not necessarily 100% in favor of the plan as it exists today anyways. I just don't think standing water of a foot or more for several days is something that we should be an advocate of. And while I agree, I think, and I actually agree with the engineer's determination that an above ground system is probably easier to maintain and it's easier to clean out and those types of things. So I'm in favor of this system. I just think that the design is not something that I'm really in favor of or I'm too keen on today. So I agree with your statements, but I would even take it a step further.
Okay, I think that
Councilor.
I'd like to add that as a condition, there'd be a passive barrier around the areas in which there could be possible access, and that is the southern portion and the eastern portion, just to keep people out of there, because people do, and I would assume that this company will be doing things during the fall, during the winter, will it be dark? Someone needs to be there. Usually a passive barrier of a hedge of something should be in that area. I agree with Ms. Sheehan. And I'd like to add that as a condition. The other issue I have here is the building itself. Will there be individuals? Will there be people working in that building? Or is it just storage?
I'm going to speak on behalf of the owners. It is primarily warehousing. There most likely will be one or two employees working in that area, retrieving goods and distributing goods to the vehicles and or the clients that are going to be arriving to pick up product.
I did not see in the plans a vapor barrier, a passive vapor barrier. Is there going to be some type of sheeting vapor barrier? Because although it is not severely contaminated now and the contamination is dropping, I'm not sure of what the contamination is. And it is usually a safety measure, as we've done in the past, just required some type of plastic filming as a passive vapor barrier. And I didn't see that as a condition either. I'll ask any of my colleagues to make comment, or any of our professionals, why that wasn't added as a condition.
I can respond to that. The primary reason was the concentrations in the area of the building are either non-detect or below a GW1 standards. So based on how the MCP reads and DEP requirements, even though a vapor barrier would be a precaution to take scientifically and risk-wise, we did not see a need for that.
Does that mean that there's going to be no motion, no movement of what's left of the plume underneath that building? Can you assure that?
Well, there'll be movement of groundwater, but fortunately, we're at a portion of the property where the ground, it's the high point of the property. So groundwater is actually radiates out either, radiates out southerly, southwesterly, southeasterly. And so we're fortunate that on this side of the property, where things have, where M&A is, I'll say, sort of winding down because this is the cleanest part of the property. So groundwater may be moving, but there will not be, the only way for contamination to migrate on beneath where we are is if it came from upstream, up north of where the building is, which is off-site, and there's no evidence of a problem there.
Are you
So
telling me
everything,
that the groundwater in no way can move uphill here as groundwater can due to pressures, gradients
yeah, it won't move uphill.
in this particular area?
That's right. I mean, there's no mounding, there's no hydraulic head occurring at the property from the southern area that would reverse groundwater flow to have it go uphill towards where the the addition's being proposed.
Okay. I'll ask my professionals, is that an explanation that we can accept to not require a vapor barrier? Either Christine or Susan?
Yeah, this is Susan. So I'm assuming that you've done, or in the past, groundwater flow direction locally for this site, correct? And Christine must have seen that in some of the reports that she reviewed. So Christine, can you confirm the direction of groundwater flow based on their past groundwater flow diagrams?
Yeah, yes, so the groundwater flow from the site is towards the south, away from this addition and this building.
One other comment too, Mr. Chairman, I feel better that they took an additional sample from the drainage basin area. So, and that I'm assuming is part of the LSP opinion, and that was the reason why you took the additional sample. Is that correct?
It is. It's a new well and a new sample.
And that sample was also non-detect?
That is correct.
VOCs? And the groundwater flow in the direction of the drainage basin, so anything going into the drainage basin or in the area of the drainage basin is also going south?
Groundwater flow beneath the building and the drainage basin would be southerly. One of the things we looked at was we did not feel the standing water that may be in the forebay to result in any significant or measurable change in flow direction, because there's just not enough consistent hydraulic head there. Maybe after a rainstorm, but not for a persistent amount of time.
Well, but the groundwater in that area anyways is all non-detect, so you're just adding clean water to the system anyways, correct?
That's right, right.
So Susan, or Christine, your opinion, in many cases in formerly contaminated areas, we required a passive vapor barrier. You don't believe that in this particular, that is warranted? Because if we're gonna do it, do it now when you can put in a piece of plastic, rather than have a real problem in the future if you ever detect anything. But I'll leave it to my two professionals.
I'll let Christine answer that since she reviewed the reports for
Yeah, I don't think it's necessary in this instance.
Okay. I mean, I will go with with the determination of my professional here. And since it's non-detected, I understand. Next question. Is there going to be any more remediation anywhere along this site? I'm just curious. Or are you done with remediation? And are you going to file for closure?
Our firm is not the LSP of record, so I'm going to be speaking for Golder Associates, who is the LSP of record. And my understanding is that they're continuing to do monitored natural attenuation at the site, primarily in the southeast portion of the property, although there are some wells in our area that they'd like to continue to monitor. And I don't know when they're planning to submit a closure report. Megan, I don't know, do you have anything to add to that? Because you've been in communication with Golder Associates more than I have.
No, I don't have anything to add to that. That's my feeling as well. They may be dropping some wells from their monitoring plan in the area that we're working in, but they still will be continuing to monitor in the southern area. So.
Mr. Chairman, and just to clarify for the board, so monitored natural attenuation is basically just checking it every so often to see what the results are and just waiting for it basically to diminish on its own and move off site.
I guess what my question is this. You know, we have looked at other sites in the past and in the town and in our water. And we say, well, the water's clean. The air is clean. And then there comes up with another type of testing, another mechanism, another procedure, and we find out it's not clean. And there is something there, 1,4-dioxane being something that we didn't see, we saw 10 years later. There's PFAS in our water that we didn't know that existed. I'm just concerned that this was a highly contaminated site. It is relatively clean now. I have to say that you did a wonderful job in cleaning it. I'm just nervous that you're putting up a building with no vapor barrier, and for quote unquote short money, as I have been told, you could put up some sheeting just to make sure that something doesn't happen in the future. And that's where I'm coming from. We have been burnt in the past with a couple of these types of situations where we find other types of chemicals that we couldn't measure 30 years ago, we measure now. And I just think that you should put a vapor barrier there. It's not a big site. It's not a big deal right now. And you can then be absolutely ensured that your personnel are being protected. That's all I say. I'll ask any of my board members if they feel the same as I do. And those were the two issues that I really had, and that was something to a passive barrier around the detention basin, and then a vapor barrier in the building just in case. And I think that those issues are minor and protective.
Ed?
Yes.
Mary Beth, can I just ask, what are we currently asking other businesses about the protection around the open basins? What are we requesting them to implement for what we have currently?
It's been my opinion. I think I can ask our professionals, but we always have some type of barrier just for safety. We've had cars drive into these things.
Mr. Chairman, again, I am not on the current design. I am probably going to vote against the plan in favor of the project. I just think we can do better than what's there. And so I would urge, and we don't have a motion to vote on yet, but I would urge my board members to ask them to go back and take a look at the design to include a passive barrier, but also to shorten the standing water and the length of time for infiltration.
If I could just add to that, Mr. Chairman.
Who is this speaking, please?
This is Dan Hazen from Howard Sign Hudson.
Yes, please.
I am looking at the HydroCAD report, and we have added, overall for the site, we've added 17,000 square feet of impervious area. And in looking at the tabular hydrograph of the site, the amount of water that's in the basin is essentially from hour 12 of the storm until hour 25. So for about 13 hours, there's more than a foot of water in the basin. After that, there's less than 1 foot of water in the basin up until, well, from our, for the last 10 hours, there's less than 6 inches of water. It's just a matter of infiltrating into the basin. So for 13 hours, there's more than 1 foot of water in the basin. So basically what I'm getting at.
So Mr. Hinton, I hear what you're saying, and that certainly sounds better, but you're giving me 3 different answers in the past 20 minutes.
Well, originally, stormwater management requires that basins dewater within 72 hours. When I looked at the HydroCAD, it said, when I actually looked at the hydrograph, it showed that the flow rate was at 0 at 36 hours. And then when I actually look at the tabular hydrograph that I'm looking at right now, it shows that basically from hours 0 to 12, there's no water because that's where your peak of your hydrograph starts. And then from hour 12 to 25 is when you have more than a foot. And then from 25 out to the 36 is, just a couple of inches of water. So, this is well within any sort of basin design that we have ever done. I'm not sure what depth you would be looking for from a new design, or what would be the maximum depth that you would ask for.
Christine, have you studied this retention basin at depth, in depth, and how does it compare to the numerous past projects we've done over the last couple of years?
I'm sorry, David, could you repeat that?
Yeah, have you studied and looked at this retention basin in depth, and do you feel comfortable that it fits in with the board's history and strategy around water infiltration and other projects that we have done?
I mean, there are certainly projects, on non-residential sites throughout town that have infiltration basins that hold water during certain storms.
I'm aware.
This is not unusual. It's not particularly large. We have on some other areas where there could be vehicular traffic that we have added, or the board has added the passive barrier, like some arborvitaes or some shrubs or something to prevent, deter access to such a basin. But it's consistent with things that the board has approved in the past.
I haven't heard that depth and or water retention rate in a long time, so that's my concern at this point.
So here's where we are. We have 13 conditions. Have you seen all the 13 conditions?
We have.
I would like to add my 2 conditions, and how do I go ahead and propose those? I propose absolutely a passive barrier for safety around the accessible areas to the retention basins, just to keep somebody from walking in the dark or a car from driving in. And we've had issues in both, I believe. I know the car is absolutely an issue. And then how do I propose a passive vapor barrier to put in a piece of plastic? Susan, can I go ahead and
You can make a motion to approve with the 13 conditions plus the 2 conditions that you just named.
and then if that is passes, if that passes, they're in. And if they're not passed, then we would vote just on the other 13. Is that correct?
If somebody else makes that motion.
Okay. So as chairman, I'm asking for a motion with my two conditions. Do I have somebody make a motion?
I'll make a motion, Ed.
And who is this? That it's Andrea?
Oh, yeah, it's Andrea. I'll make a motion to add those 2 conditions to the list of 13 currently
For approval.
for approval. Yes.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second?
So I'm going to make a motion to second for discussion purposes only, because I am in favor of this project. I'm just not in favor, and I haven't really gotten a clear answer on the retention basin. So I'll second the motion for discussion purposes only.
Okay.
So Mr. Chair, I have to tell you, Mr. McSweeney is resonating. His thoughts are resonating with me. This presentation and the concerns that have already been listed is not the caliber of presentation that we are used to. While I have no issue with the project in general, it's just I have the same concerns that Mr. McSweeney does, and I'm just one, so I'm not feeling good about this motion as it is currently.
If I could add, this is Dan Hazen again. If I could add a little bit more detail to the stormwater to try to alleviate some of the questions. The rainfall amounts that we're using are the new, the extreme rainfall events. These are not the standard rainfalls that we had used up until the past about 5 years ago. This is the Atlas 14 rainfalls. So these rainfall events take into account, the larger rainfalls that, as you mentioned, we get a 100-year rainstorm quite more frequently, or we get that depth of rain. So when we designed this, we use the larger rainfall events. And as far as, I'm not sure what would be a design standard that you would be looking for, where there's only 2 feet of water. From my experience for the past, isn't a lot of water in a basin. That's a very small amount for a short period of time. And with the infiltration that we saw up there, or the soils, it's a very nice gravelly soil. It should drain very rapidly. I'm not.
So with all respect, sir, we've gone from 72 hours to 36 hours to somewhere around 20 something hours for quote inches worth of rain, to not really knowing answers to specific questions and having to come back to us. So it's just I guess I'm just not feeling like there's a complete preparation and understanding of what's actually happening here. We are typically used to, sir, having, presentations which are well laid out and understood and very clear. And so I'll just go back to what my colleague has already said. I'm in favor of this project. I'm just not understanding, I'm just not appreciating that you all are appreciating what the true nature of the site is with regard to infiltration.
I don't want this to fail, because I believe that these are minor issues. But I'm clearly hearing from my board that they have concerns, and that bothers me. And I'm going to ask the board, rather than if Ms. Sheehan, well, I don't know, we could vote on this, or we could continue this to the next meeting. And when you have all of your answers, and we're all, unfortunately, what has happened here is, because of COVID, because we've had a number of people who have been ill in our department, we did not have a subcommittee meeting in which we clear all these issues up, and usually it takes 2 minutes to pass a plan like this. It's usually very quick. Here it is, we're now 45 minutes into this, and people are still concerned, have concerns.
Mr. Chair, point of parliamentary procedure.
Yes.
We have a motion and a second on the table. We are in discussion now. The only way that we could continue this is if the primary motion is rescinded, and then we can enter a new motion, or we should vote on this motion.
I will ask Ms. Sheehan if we should revoke her motion.
No, given the discussion here, I think being new myself, I think we should rescind my motion and
Good.
further the discussion till we have the answers to make a good decision.
Good. Then would you then revoke it, and I would entertain a motion to continue.
Okay, I revoke the motion.
Mr.
And
Chair, I'll make a motion to continue the discussion on, I'm sorry, I don't have the property address in front of me.
the property is 13 Adams Street, Filter Sales and Services.
I will second the motion.
I have a motion, I have a second. All in favor? I think any other discussion? Is there any other discussion first?
So
Judge,
discussion, Mr. Chairman, the purpose of the continuation is to ensure that the staff is comfortable with the retention basin design, and also get our questions answered around infiltration time and standing water. And if we are still talking 2 feet for up to 36 hours, I would like some type of redesign, not to come back with the same plan if those calculations are accurate.
Ms. Lubanella, the director.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest that a subcommittee meeting of 2 of the Board of Health members occur before the next meeting, or before this is brought to another meeting.
Yeah, that's a usual process. We try to do this in open meeting. We've tried this in the past. It's been a disaster. I think that we should just go ahead and continue this, have a subcommittee meeting, bring it back, and we're all on the same page. Right now, I have to admit that there are board members on this who they're not used to this type of a debate, a live debate. And so I have a motion. If there are any other discussion, if not, all in favor? Mr. McSweeney,
Aye.
Dr. Saltzman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Sheehan,
aye.
and I vote aye, 5-0. We'll put this on the agenda for our meeting, which is the second week in February, which is, I'm going to look right now, which would be February the 8th. Thank you. The next agenda, well, thank you for being here, and let's talk. Our next agenda item is an update on COVID-19 and a continued discussion on mask mandates. I'm going to ask our director if she has any updates on COVID-19. Specifically, we've had a number of changes in the schools, in the school protocols. We've had a lot of changes in the environment where our numbers have been changing. Could you please give us any insight that you possibly can?
Sure. So with regards to the schools first, DESE has come out with a new procedure for schools, and it is highly recommended that schools who are participating in the test and stay program cease that, and DESE will be providing at-home test kits for families who opt in, and those families can test themselves on a certain day of the week or test the children prior to coming to school. This new plan calls for the elimination of contact tracing in the schools. So if you are close contact from school, you can still attend school. And if you opt into the program, you'll be given these test kits to test yourself. They're also going to be doing testing of symptomatic students. So if a child has symptoms during school, they can go down and get tested if their family has opted them into that program. So this is a new thing that's being highly recommended by DESE. And Burlington Public Schools, I was in discussion with Dr. Conti and Patrick Larkin, and I believe they had a discussion at their school committee meeting that they're going to go ahead and move forward with this new program. They haven't received their test kits yet. I believe the first test kits will be coming for teachers and staff, and then they'll be getting the test kits for students. We had a call today with Department of Public Health. I'm sure everybody has heard the numbers now are looking better. We're seeing a decline, so that's good. I think I've been looking at the wastewater information that is coming to us, and that's on the decline. I think that seems to be a good indication of what's happening. We are seeing and I believe what they said was there's a 2-week decline, a lag between the wastewater data and then seeing what's actually going on with the testing. The Department of Public Health now has, they're following, like we said last time, the CDC guidelines with regards to isolation and quarantine, and they've made some slight changes to that they put on their website last week, which includes if you cannot wear a mask. So if you need to quarantine and you're fully vaccinated, which means 2 doses and a booster dose, you do not need to quarantine, but you do need to wear a mask for 10 days. If you cannot wear a mask, then you should stay home for the 10 days or test on day 5 or later. And if you're negative, then you don't need to quarantine. So we are in this environment, like I said last time, we're seeing the time we're in now is very different from a year ago. So we are contact tracing and case investigation is not having as much an effect as it did a year ago. DPH has come out with new protocols on reducing the amount of contact tracing and case management that we're doing. So we're starting to move towards that. And I'll answer any questions if anybody has any. I think that's it.
Susan, this is Ed. I have a couple of questions. Contact tracing was the most important thing we did in the schools on one day, and then we have a notice the next day it's not important. We know that people are positive a couple days before they have symptoms. The test in and return a test and stay, I know you mentioned in the past, was not working very well. Where are we on this? So, our Massachusetts Department of Public Health has given us really minimal direction. as a professional, as Director of Public Health, I'm going to ask this to our member of Board of Health, who is a MD, PhD. Are we doing the right thing?
So, Mr. Chair, thank you, and thank you for your wisdom through this pandemic, and I thank our board, I thank our director and our staff for all their efforts. So I'm well aware of the wastewater dropping. I'm well aware of the numbers. I am well aware of the ongoing burden in our hospital settings. I'm well aware of testing, quarantining, and isolating. You know, we also received a number of letters in lieu of this meeting tonight, which I have reviewed them all. I decided this weekend, Mr. Chair, to go out into our public places and really see for myself uh, what was happening in public. And I went to, you know, all of our town lines and within the town proper. And I echo one of our letters from one of our citizens. I was proud and pleased to see that the vast majority, let me repeat, the vast majority of citizens and visitors to our town were wearing masks. Um, we're social distancing. I was watching people in stores. You know, I do believe that we still need to do better with regard to vaccines, but my opinion has not changed, regardless of the fact that we seem to be decreasing in the Omicron threat. My opinion has not changed that our town should maintain an advisory status with regard to masks, and we should make full use of the tools that we have in our virus fighting tool chest, not just for Omicron, but for flu, et cetera. Flu maintains a moderate status in our state. The numbers are higher than last year, but not as high as in previous years. I think people should continue to wear masks. People should continue to social distance. People should be washing their hands. People should be isolating if they are ill. And, you know, I've had discussions with our director and with you, Mr. Chair. We are well aware, as our director just said, that we are in a much different position this year than we were in last year. We have tools, we have remediation efforts, and we have educated our citizens, and we continue to support our citizens and the visitors who come to our town. I don't see any benefit to any change from the position that we've had. I think it has been successful, but I also think that we should not let our become complacent with regard to this. I think we still, even though the New York Times says Omicron is retreating, I think that we still need to take all the precautions that we have been urging. So, Mr. Chair, just to continue the deliberation, I am emboldened to make a motion that the town of Burlington maintain its mask advisory as it has up until now.
Wow, that's interesting. For discussion, is there a second? Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by, it sounds like Ms. Welch. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Ms. Welch. Well, we've gone from update, which I think now we have an update as good as we're going to get, because we've discussed it every single meeting now since a year now. And since I have a motion on the floor about continuing a mask advisory,
So, Mr. Chairman,
yes,
and Dr. Fossman, thanks for your comments and your motion. We do have, I think, somebody from this community that would like to speak before, and I think it's important to hear before we, if it's okay.
Well,
to
I
defer
think that, I think that the board should have discussion first. So, Mr.
That's
McSweeney,
fine.
would you like to?
I just don't want to, see that, I see somebody raising their virtual hand. I just want to make sure that she's recognized.
She will be recognized, but I think that the board members should first weigh in, unless they would like to wait. And if they would like to wait, I can hold that off. But I'm going to ask the board now, would you like to weigh in? Or this will not prohibit you from weighing in later. So, so would any of the other board members, Ms. Sheehan, would you want to wait?
Sure, I'll wait, Ed.
Uh, Mary Beth Welch, Ms. Welch, would you want to wait, or do you want to speak? You want to comment now?
I can wait, Ed.
It's up to you. It's up. Okay, and Mr. McSweeney, you want to wait and make a comment?
Yeah, I do want to make comments, but I would love to hear from the residents that took their time to call in and
Yes.
and,
As
and,
we did,
and yeah, and listen to the
as
comments as we've done in the past for sure. Yeah.
the past, every person who would like to speak will speak. However, as I said earlier tonight, we are all in this together. No matter how you feel and how frustrating, emotional, stressful, in some cases scary, I said, I don't want to, I don't want this to get out of hand. I'm very interested in your comments. I really am. However, let's all be great members of our community. And with that, I have somebody's hand up, and I'm going to try to, it's Melissa Foster. Is that who it is?
Yes, correct.
Please turn
Thank
on
you.
your mic and please comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
Okay, great. And I was the one that commented in the chat earlier that the link on the Board of Health was wrong, but the Burlington website was correct. So, and I don't see a lot of people on this call. There was 2 weeks ago, there were a lot more people. So I don't know if people couldn't get on the link, but that's a separate issue. I have lived in Burlington for 12 years. I am a resident and I am a parent of a 2-year-old. My concern is our population 5 and under that cannot be vaccinated yet. I do not feel comfortable taking my child into a store as she is unvaccinated if people are not wearing masks. We know masks stop the spread, and our children under 5 are not eligible to be vaccinated yet. I know I looked up on the census Burlington's population under 5 years old. I believe it's around 5%. That might not sound like a huge population, but these are our children and they can't be vaccinated because they're not eligible yet. It's not approved. My daughter just turned 2 in December and we're teaching her how to wear a mask. That's not very easy as a parent, but we're teaching her to wear a mask because we feel that will protect her. But I will not take her into a store knowing that masks are not required. And I want to shop in my community and I want to feel comfortable. And I know the numbers are going down, but it's not going away. So I just, as a parent, I'm concerned. As a resident, I'm concerned. I go to the grocery store and yes, the majority of people are wearing masks, but there are people not wearing masks. And it's uncomfortable for me because I'm trying to protect my family and I want to be proud of my community. And I really appreciate all this work that everybody's doing. I know it's thankless and everybody has a lot of emotions and opinions. And, I understand there's a lot around a mandate that, you can't enforce it, etc. But as a parent of a 2-year-old who can't be vaccinated yet, it's very upsetting to me.
Thank you very much for your opinion. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see that Carmela, I'm going to ruin your last name. Schmielzel, please pronounce it.
No worries. It's Carmela Schmalzley.
Schmelzley, thank
No
you.
worries at all.
I
Hi.
apologize.
No problem at all. Sorry. Thank you. So I'm Carmela Schmosley. I've been attending the Board of Health meeting for a bit now, and I want to thank you all for everything that you do. Love this community. I love where I live, but we have been having discussions about mask mandate for quite a while right now. Going back to what was just discussed about children not being able to be vaccinated and masks work. As you said, there are opinions. Everybody has different opinions, and my opinion is that I should not have to do something, or my kids should not have to do something because you're uncomfortable. Masks. If you believe that masks work, then you wear your mask, and I don't need to do the same thing as you're doing. I am careful. If I'm sick, I'm staying home. If my children are sick, they're staying home. There's been tons of studies done so far that have come out. Even the CDC has come out and said that masks, only N95 mask works. And we have a lot of different data now out there. And again, children, as we know, they are not at risk. My children are not at risk. My children are not vaccinated, and I'm not planning on getting them vaccinated until I have enough data to show that everything is safe for them. And we do not have that at the moment. At this point, I do not think that mask mandate specifically works. It just brings division in the community. You have people giving each other nasty looks or yelling at each other for somebody wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. And everybody has a choice in America. That's, again, I said this last time I was here. I come from Iran, a country that I had no freedom whatsoever. I do things for my family. I keep my family safe, and I urge people to keep their family safe as well by doing the things that they do. Preventing people from going to stores because they're not wearing masks. It's unconstitutional. We are all here. We want to help each other. So if you feel uncomfortable seeing somebody without a mask, don't go near them. I mean, that's basically it. And as someone mentioned last time when I was on the meeting, the masks that we wear, there is not enough protection. Again, the data is there. Looking at the mask.gov data, you can see Billerica versus Burlington, and Billerica has had mask mandate forever. As long as I remember, it's been at least since summer, and their cases are higher than Burlington, and we have so many people come in. And anyways, I just want to make sure that my voice is heard, my children's voices are heard. They go to school, they have to wear masks all day as well. And if I take them out to get ice cream, I'd like them to go without panicking that they're not going to be able to get in. So I want to thank you very much for all you do. And I hope you consider this as someone who's a foreigner who came here for the freedom. And I don't think that people should be asked to do something for others. This is something that I believe that I need to do for my kid and my family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I have, Sarah, I have somebody raise his hand here, but do you have somebody ahead of that individual?
Nope. So we have two people, Mr. Chair. We have Marilyn would be next, and we have Russ would be after that.
Thank you. Marilyn Howard, are you on?
I am on. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you.
We cannot see you, though.
That would be my preference, if that's okay.
That's fine. I just wanted you to know. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I have to say I agree with Melissa, and I couldn't disagree more than I do with Carmela. I feel that there have been lots of arguments made for not wearing masks. Wearing a mask is a very simple ask for a public in the middle of a pandemic. We're not debating vaccine mandates. We're not debating vaccine passports. It's simply wearing a mask. Enforcement was an argument that was used a lot. And I don't think anyone expects the police or the Board of Health to enforce it strictly in terms of people going in and not wearing a mask. Obviously, if there's any violence or confrontation, then that's a different story. But I don't think enforcement should even be considered part of the discussion. What really kind of ranks me is the idea of personal freedom versus the good of the general public. You can't smoke in a building because you're hurting other people. You wear seatbelts so that if you get into an accident, you don't get hurt and other people don't get hurt. There's the question of efficacy. Do masks work? Does it benefit the town if they have a mask mandate? If there's even a question, then why not err on the side of caution? And another thing that was brought up in the past was determining the length of the mandate if approved. Well, the downturn in the number of cases would hopefully mean that a mask mandate would only have to be in effect for maybe 1 or 2 months and then revisit the issue. But I just feel, I know Dr. Salzman said he went into places and the majority of people wear masks. That's true in the supermarkets in town. I do agree with that, although even with multiple announcements at Wegmans that please wear a mask and we have masks at the front desk, the unmasked people still ignore that. But I cannot go into a coffee shop in town. I cannot go into Dunkin' Donuts. I cannot go into True North. I cannot go anywhere to get a cup of coffee without having somebody standing 1 foot in front of me or 1 foot behind me unmasked. And that's not fair to me, who has somebody at home that I'm trying to not submit to the infection, who might be compromised. I think that if we're going to consider a mask mandate or if you're not going to consider it, then at least think about it for supermarkets and pharmacies. People go into CVS and they're ill. Maybe they have the flu, maybe they have COVID, maybe they have something else and they're going in to buy medicine or pick up prescriptions. I'd like to know that people who are compromised can at least go into those settings and not have to worry about other people. I think taking care of our neighbors is more important than worrying about our freedom to wear or not wear a mask.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have, who is next? Sarah?
Russ was next.
Russ, are you there? What is your last name? Russ?
Thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me.
Yeah, what is your last name, please?
Busa, B-U-S-A.
Thank you so much, Mr. Boozer. Please go
I
ahead.
wanted to thank you. As Marilyn had just stated how she doesn't agree with Carmela, I can't be in any more opposition with Marilyn and the woman before in terms of the mask wearing, as I don't know how many people actually study what's been happening for the past 2 years or just take their information off of the local TV, or as the doctor said, the New York Times, which, as we all know, cannot be further off. But what you've seen in the past 2 years is if I don't do something, somehow it's going to affect you. Well, that's just not true. I mean, for 46 years, I've trained and worked out. I do that for me. I don't do it for other people. I'm a big Second Amendment fan, so when I carry, I do it to protect me, not myself. If people were actually looking at facts, social distancing, an oxymoron, why 6 feet? That's not scientific. Over the past 2 years, you have seen a country where domestic violence has increased. You've seen suicide attempts and suicides increase by over 300%. Alcohol abuse, child abuse, isolation. We use words like isolation and quarantine. Before 2019, they would say something is going around. And yet in 2019, people died from the flu just like they die from many other instances. You've had doctors from all over the world get censored or deplatformed because they're against the narrative. People don't realize that in June of 2020, the CDC all of a sudden reclassified the way they handle COVID deaths. Why would that? They didn't have any explanation. They continue to go where they change the definition of a vaccine. Now, for us that study, we know that this is gene therapy and not a vaccine. And the one that's being used by people is still not approved. Comirnaty has still not been used.
Mr. Busa, please, can you focus on the maskage situation, please?
Absolutely. There are more studies that show that masks do nothing. And what this is going on is having fear. Kids are walking around with masks, that's child abuse. They don't get to see people's expression. Harvard did a study about how IQs are going down on younger people. Anytime people would see a mask prior to 2019, they would think the person is sick. So they increase stress and anxiety for what? So that people's immune systems can drop. There's no talk about working out, vitamin D, magnesium. All it is inject health. Well, we all know that 1 didn't work, 2 didn't work, 3 didn't work. The moment you let someone tell you what to put into your body, it is no longer your body.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Busa. I'm sure I understand where you're coming from. And thank you for joining us. I am pleased. Thank you for your opinion. Who is next, Ms. Kodamash?
We have Phyllis next.
Phyllis, would you like to speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What is your last name, please?
It's Neufeld.
Thank you so much, Ms. Neufeld.
I'm going to be short and sweet. I don't believe this is about whether or not someone is comfortable or uncomfortable wearing a mask. I don't think it's about the numbers decreasing. It's about our safety. It's about our willingness to protect our most vulnerable, to protect our neighbors, and to protect other people that are around us. And I urge you to support a mask mandate.
Thank you, Ms. Neufeld. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming. I think we have Ms. DeBona next. Is that correct? Jeff DeBona, are you there?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Jeff DeBona, Town Meeting Member, Precinct 3. So I just wanted to reiterate a little bit more on what Dr. Weiner said at the beginning of the meeting about causing division. We need to work together as a community. Having a mandate only causes more undue stress for people. I'm not going to get into the efficacy of anything. It's not my place to be doing that. But I just do not want to see people in the community fighting over things. We do need to work together. You can see it right in the meeting now. It goes back and forth. This person's for it. This person's vehemently against it. It's not the way we need to be addressing things. We need to be all working together towards a common solution. Thank you. And thank you for your hard work you've been putting in.
Thank you very much. And I will say, if you didn't hear me at the beginning, this Board of Health has been working overtime for months and months and months. My wife said I semi-retired. I went back to work full-time plus with overtime, as most of the board members have. And we're getting there, and we're really all in this together. And this is America. This is the United States. We can disagree. We can disagree and still leave as friends. So I thank you. I'm going to go back now to the board. I guess, Ms. Kodamash, is there any other public input? Last call.
None that I can see at this time.
I'll go back to the board. I think that Dr. Saltzman has spoken. I know that Mr. McSweeney, Vice Chair, would like to say something.
If I could, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, and I'm not going to, because I think the last several board meetings I've given my opinion. And first, I do want to thank the citizens, the residents that have either written in or show up to the meetings. I do believe local government only works because the community makes it work, and the people in the community make it work. And I respect both sides of this discussion wholeheartedly. And so I do appreciate the participation. I think what it comes down to for me is that I've seen a couple, and nobody on this in this meeting, but a couple of emails about that the town, or the board, I should say, has done nothing because we haven't rolled out a mandate. So I just want to take a couple of moments to say that that is entirely untrue. And sorry that that is a perception that could be out there because we have spent, we've developed a subcommittee. a COVID subcommittee that has talked and met extensively on this. We have, I think this is the 5th or maybe even 6th board meeting that we've had it on the agenda and have had several discussions. I know other board members, including myself, have talked to other town board of health about mask mandates and how they're working or not working. And we spent a lot of time, the staff still continues to spend time on COVID and on addressing and assessing the need for not only mask mandates, but for other programs that we manage. So I just want to make sure that just because we have not voted for a mask mandate doesn't mean that we haven't done anything. We've done a lot and certainly have weighed in on a lot of the information that is out there. We've listened to our professionals on our staff. And like I said, you know, we've of all the other actions, and also we've have a mask advisory recommendation, which we debated quite a lot on that before we voted on it. And that's not, you know, a sidestep by any means of the imagination. There was a lot of thought put into that. And so I'll just say that just to address that from that perspective. However, I'll take a step back and I'll give you a slight opinion of where I'm coming from. I do believe that a mask mandate, while I believe in the efficacy of wearing a mask, it is not the end all be all of not spreading COVID. And that, as Dr. Saltzman eloquently put it, it is a tool that should be used and worn by all residents, as the advisory recommends, but also all the other things. You should get your vaccination. You should social distance. You should avoid large gatherings, so on and so forth. There's a number of things that we can do to help stop the spread. But I go back to a mask mandate that can't be enforced is not a mask mandate. And we're putting the onus on 18-year-old store clerks working to enforce a mask for people coming in the doors that is causing other problems and vigilantism. And quite honestly, when we look at the other towns that have mask mandates, their results are worse than Burlington's. And that's not the only reason. There's a litany of other information that I feel still strongly about the mask mandate. But I'll leave it at that. I think I've said it in my past meetings, but I just wanted to make those comments. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Welch, you second the motion. Do you have any comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so I think I appreciate all the residents who have come to the meetings, who have provided emails. I haven't had multiple, but I have had some who have reached out to me either via a text or in person, and with to add to the discussion. Both some are in favor and some not. And I too have been in other towns, and I usually don't bring personal into the meeting, but I will, because I think it just kind of echoes. I was in one of our surrounding towns, Boston, that does have a mask mandate with, I do have a child, with a sport event, and it was extremely crowded, and there was multiple people in the event that did not have a mask, right? And it, again, I did not witness, and what little I did see when I was leaving, I did not witness members of that event implementing, enforcing reiterating what the mandate is in the state of Boston. So as the other board member mentioned, David, it is a very difficult if you're going to set a mandate, there is a piece of it that needs to be enforced and followed through. And I think if we do so in Burlington, we're putting that onto it is the staff. It is the staff. And I look to see for previous members of our staff when we did have a mandate, I think they were in react mode. I think, and they can certainly jump in, and they were re-educating the members of the community or the residents. And I think there's so much information out there now. There's so many different areas, not just including our local board, but that we've spent a tremendous amount of hours educating with thanking Dr. Saltzman, with educating our and other board members with BCAT, with, as you said, there's plenty of tools, there's tons of material. I really think following the CDC recommendation that folks should make what's the healthy choice for themselves.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Ms. Sheehan, Andrew Sheehan, would you like to make a statement or?
So I guess I'll say that my opinion hasn't changed either. I, frequent the town with a double mask when I have to go into the mall or a store. I see so many people without masks. They're not social distancing. They're not 6 feet in length apart. And I think it compromises all of us. And I look at this as a worldwide issue. It is. And I don't see the majority of the people or enough of the people getting vaccinated to take every measure to help everybody else. And so in that regard, even though mandate is a strong word, I do believe it's one extra step that we can take to protect everybody.
Thank you very much. I'll let our staff and then I'll make comment. Mr. Green, our new Associate Director, would you like to comment?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. I'm in agreement with Dr. Saltzman that an advisory is the best means right now. I think we do have a bunch of other tools in the toolbox, vaccinations being one, isolating, quarantine when we're sick, hand washing. Those are all the things I'd rather see a shift towards personal responsibility. And if you're sick, stay home.
Director of Public Health, would you like to make comment? I know you've made some of the great.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to reiterate that what I said earlier, and that the atmosphere is very different than when we first came into this. When COVID first began, and even a year ago. So 2 years ago, 1 year ago, we didn't have vaccines. We had mandates already in place. We had a state mandate. We had COVID standards that were being required. We had limits on gatherings. We no longer have any of those things in place right now. And I think putting a mandate in place, although I think we could enforce it if we had to, because we did it in the past, I'm not so sure that we would be able to do it in every single area. And like Dr. Saltzman was saying, when we're seeing most of the people in stores that are wearing masks now, I'm not sure if we had a mandate in place, if we would be seeing it any differently.
Thank you.
Than what it is currently.
I'm going to speak. As many of you know, I'm as frustrated as hell. Maybe I shouldn't use that word, but I am. We've tried everything. We're in this 3 years now. I sat before the selectmen. I said, we'll get through this. Just give it time. Well, we've given it 2 years. The Spanish flu took more than 2 years. This is going to continue for a while. I don't know what else to do. Yeah, I mask. Yes, I'm fully vaccinated. I realize for some people, both of those issues are personal issues, issues of liberty, and I fully respect that. But as a scientist and as someone who is a doctorate in medical science, I'm willing to try anything for short term. And yes, I was not, and everybody knows I was not really for a mask mandate. I thought the community would do what we asked them to do, and they won't. And I don't know what to do, and we've got to do something. So I am for a mask mandate for a short period of time to see if it makes a change, makes a difference. What I am going to tell you, though, is I respect everybody's opinion here. And I would fight to the end for the ability for you to provide an opinion. That's what we are. We're free in this country, and I thank you all. We have a motion on the floor by Dr. Saltzman. We have it second by Mary Beth Welch to continue a mask advisory. We've had discussion. I'm going to call for a vote. Mr. McSweeney.
Aye.
Dr. Wayne Saltzman.
Aye.
Mary Beth Welch.
Aye.
Andrea Sheehan.
Nay.
And I vote no. The mask mandate is carried. We continue to have a mask mandate in this town. We do not have a mask mandate in this town. We have a mask advisory. Again, I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for your opinion. You can see there is even disagreement on this board. However, we treat everybody with respect here. I'm not sure when we're going to discuss this again. We have gone through this multiple times, but you're welcome to stay during staff reports and our budgetary reports. But I thank you for getting on. Thank you so much. Okay, which brings us to fiscal year 2023 Board of Health budget. I guess Susan Luminello, do you want to present this?
Yeah, yes. So I've included the entire budget in your board book materials. Everything has been level funded, and we are actually below. We're at a negative 1.32% overall in our budget. We're down on the salaries because our part-time, we're paying less, I think, overall for the part-time administrative assistant because the administrative assistant that was here for many years has retired. So we are less on that, but everything else basically is level funded. And we are scheduled to go to Ways and Means on March 16th to discuss our budget, and I haven't been contacted yet by the subcommittee, but I'm assuming the Ways and Means subcommittee for the budget will want to meet before that meeting. So I'll take any questions on the budget. So I think everything is pretty much the same.
Susan, so the only change is that we have a new professional on our staff and also annual raises. Is that correct? You're on mute, please.
It's contractual obligations and due to.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, just one question. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Mary Beth.
No, go ahead. Good.
So I just have a quick question. Is there any area or program, Susan, that I probably already know the answer to this, but I just want to get it kind of on record. But is there any program or area, because we're just getting level funded, is there any area that we have to be concerned about that we don't have enough funds to carry on the program? And also, does that include any type of COVID-related activities? I know a lot of that we get emergency funding and grants and so forth by the state, but is there other stuff that we think that we might need that we're not gonna be able to cover? I'm assuming mosquitoes, hazardous waste, flu, vaccines, all that stuff, we're fine with a level budget plan for next year.
Yeah, nothing that I can think of. So the COVID related stuff, I mean, we had a lot of overtime, of course, you know, due to COVID but that was all covered under the grant money, which would, you know, in the future, we're not going to be getting any grant money because DPH is not recommending all of that case management continuing. So I don't anticipate that that's going to be an issue, but we do have money for set aside for overtime anyways. We haven't spent a lot of that budget because events just weren't happening. So we didn't have to send out health inspectors to a lot of events, you know, because of COVID. So some things we didn't have to spend on because of COVID as well. So I don't anticipate that there is any of those areas. I think last year we did increase our household hazardous waste account. So right now that's at 50,000. And we did have that one event that we had a lot of people at. But I don't anticipate that to be a regular occurrence either. I'm thinking that that's something that just happened because people were stuck in because of COVID and they were getting rid of all their stuff and they came out at this one event. So my expectation is that household hazardous waste events are going to even out to what they always have been in the past and not increase significantly based on that one event. So I really don't see anything else that we would need to increase.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And the town meeting was really thoughtful towards the Board of Health last year. So I agree with the approach.
Thank you. All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
Ed, I just have one question.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, thanks. Susan, under expense, and I just don't remember this from previous, or this is new. MELT, what is that?
Susan, you want to handle that?
Oh, if you
Go
want,
ahead.
that would be municipal expenses. So we take things like mileage, our gas for the vehicle out of that, things like our trainings.
Perfect. Thanks, Susan.
Some of that is union mandated too. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the fiscal year 2023 budget?
So moved.
I have a motion by Mary Beth Welch, second by our Vice Chair, Mr. McSweeney. All in favor. Mr. McSweeney.
Aye.
Dr. Saltzman.
Aye.
Ms. Welch.
Aye.
Ms. Sheehan.
Aye.
And I say aye, 5-0. The staff reports, environmental engineer. Christine, thank you for being here this evening. You've gone above and beyond. I know that you've been very, very, very busy handling so many things, and I know you haven't been feeling well, but you're here tonight. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.
Do you have anything to that you want to highlight?
Just a couple of things. It looks like in the next several months, we'll probably be seeing applications for 3 more biological safety permits. I've been working with helping Mike get the renewals, and he's been working on aligning IBC representatives because our long-serving IBC representative, Jim Harrison, is retiring.
Oh.
So, yeah, I just wanted to thank Jim for all the years and the many IBCs that he has been on.
Okay, Christine, could we please invite him to our next meeting? He has done so much for this community. I'd like to publicly thank him.
I will. I'll see when he's available, and I'll line him up for a meeting.
Thank you so much. As you know, he's not only sat on so many of these committees, but he's also a former board member.
Yes, she is.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, I just have one, Christine. And it's under the corresponding calls and emails. I don't think we see this much, but it's from the BHS student, for information on indoor air quality in the schools. Can you just brief a little bit more on that?
One of the VHS students was writing a paper about indoor air quality, and he wanted to know if we had anything on file for the more recent things that were done at the beginning of COVID in terms of upgrading filters to MERV 13s and that type of thing. I referred him back to the director of operations for the school, Mr. Bob Kuna, because Bob directed all of that research and investigation, and he was able to get some information from him, and then we were able to provide him with historical air quality, a report that we did have in our files from, I believe it was 2006.
Thank you. Take care and be well, Christine.
Thanks.
All right.
Do we have a date for household hazardous waste yet for the spring?
I do not. I think it's. I've narrowed it down to a couple. I just have to check the holidays.
Thank you so much. And then the last, did you happen to, can you give us a report on Dunbar, which I've had so many calls over?
On what?
Was the flooding, was it Dunbar Road?
Barnum?
I'm sorry, Barnum, it's not in front of me. Barnum Road, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I went out a couple of days after we got about an inch of rain. We got an inch of rain on the past holiday, and I went out after that, and it had, the pictures taken by the homeowner from that day did show a lot of rain, and showed a lot of rain being held back on the neighbor's property. But by the time I went out to the site, it had all dissipated. It had all infiltrated.
Thank you. Is that closed, or will you be going out there again?
I'll close out this particular complaint, and then I suppose I'll have to revisit it if the resident calls again.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the environmental engineer's report? I have a motion from, I think that was David McSweeney, second by Andrea Sheehan. All in favor? Mr. McSweeney,
Aye.
Dr. Saltzman,
Aye.
Mary Beth Welch,
Aye.
Andrea Sheehan,
Aye.
and I vote aye, 5-0. Associate Director of Public Health. Michael Green, is there anything on your report you'd like to highlight?
There is, Doctor. I would like to highlight the fact that we had a great turnout from our community when we put out advertisements for the IBC committee, community rep positions. I think we were thinking that we were leaning on Jim Harrison quite a bit there. And so when we put that ad out, we weren't sure what our response would be, but we ended up getting 12 individuals coming forward from our BVRC and the community at large. And we've been going through interviewing them, and that was wonderful. So that was very nice to see such community involvement. I was very impressed.
Thank you so much. You will bring the people that were selected to the board so we can meet them, correct?
We can certainly do that. We're lining them up now for a lot of our IBCs that are coming up in the next few months. So they might be a little busy, but we can certainly get them on the agenda.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for our Associate Director of Public Health? That has such a nice ring to it. Do I have a motion?
So moved to accept the Associate Director of Public Health report.
Motion by Dr. Saltzman, second by
Second.
Mary Beth Welch. All in favor? David McSweeney,
Aye, sorry, I was on mute.
Wayne Saltzman,
Aye.
Mary Beth Welch,
Aye.
Andrea Sheehan,
Aye.
and I say aye, 5-0. Now, the Director of Public Health, which is the last one. Now, the director's report is made up of the supervisory nurse, which is Christine Pollock. It's made up of the health agent who submitted and the associate health, Marlene Johnson, is the health agent, and the associate health inspector is just Samantha Hardy. So I'll go through them individually. Let's do the supervisory nurse first. Does anybody have any questions for our director?
No.
With that, okay. How about the health agent's report? Does anybody have any questions with the health agent? Okay, that's okay. And then the associate health inspector, does anyone have any questions on her report? I have one, I just don't understand. It said, for instance, there are two re-inspections that said 10-day violations corrected. What did that mean?
Yeah, so I kind of was anticipating that was going to be a question. So I did ask Samantha about that before our meeting. And there are different types of violations. So, and the names of them are based on the code. So there's priority foundation, and core violations. That's what they're called. So those, depending on how a violation is categorized, it changes the time frame in which to correct it. So priority violation is immediate. That has to be corrected either immediately or within 24 hours. A priority foundation is within 10 days, but a core violation is up to 90 days. So on some of those, you may see that some of the violations were not corrected. That's because, the time from her inspection to this report has not been the 90 days. So they've had more time to kind of correct those inspections. So her re-inspection was occurring after her report occurred.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions? Okay, next would be the Director of Public Health, and that would be Susan Luminello's report. Does anyone have any questions for her? I just have one, but I can wait. Does anyone else have a question? Okay, Susan, has to do with our intern. Is he all done?
So he wants to continue on as an intern. He's all done as far as the help assisting with the COVID case management and the contact tracing. But he wants to come back and continue. He had a break with school. He had some other obligations, but he'd like to come back in February to continue with his internship. So he will be back. And I'm expecting him to come to, we're gonna talk about him coming to a Board of Health meeting based on his schedule.
Yeah, he's been
doing great work. Yeah.
He's been very committed.
Yeah.
And I would love him to come before us just so we could say thank you. Okay. Any other questions for our director? If not, I will ask for a motion to approve the director's report, which includes the supervisory nurse, the health agent, and the associate health inspector. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mary Beth Wells, second by, whom was that? Sorry.
I think it was Dr. Saltzman.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman, is a second. All in favor is Mr. McSweeney,
Aye.
Dr. Saltzman,
Aye.
Ms. Welch,
Aye.
Ms. Sheehan,
Aye.
and I vote aye. That's 5-0. With that, we've had a long couple of meetings. I think they've been very good. I think they've been very positive. We've included the community. We haven't agreed, but we have disagreed respectfully. I'm so proud of this group. All I can do is thank you. Thank you for all that you do. I think the town knows how important this board is, our professionals are, our administrative staff is. Thank you all. Thank you, especially to Christine Mathis, to Sarah Cordamash, to Michael Green, and to Susan Luminello. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I have a motion by Andrea Sheehan, second by Mr. McSweeney. All in favor, Mr. McSweeney.
Aye.
Dr. Saltzman,
Aye.
Mary Beth Welch,
Aye.
Andrea Sheehan,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Good night, everybody. Be well.
Night.
And
Thank you.
if I've learned
too.
nothing over the past 15 years, please wash your hands.
Please do.
Please. Thank you so much, Dr. Saltzman.
Thanks, everyone. Be well, everybody.
Be well.
Bye,
You too.
everybody.
Thank
Be
you.
well.
Thanks, everybody.